The contract arrived on a Tuesday, delivered by courier who wouldn't meet her eyes, wrapped in packaging that cost more than Isabella Chen's monthly rent. The Blackwood family requested emergency restoration services for their legendary North Star necklace, the crown jewel of their $80 billion empire, a piece so famous it had its own Wikipedia page, its own documentary specials, its own wing at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, where it normally resided under 24-hour armed guard. They needed it restored within 14 days for the wedding of Sebastian Blackwood to Claudia Sterling, and they were willing to pay whatever price she named. Bella should have burned the contract the moment she recognized the return address. Should have blocked the number when the follow-up call came from Eleanor Blackwood herself, that ice-carved matriarch whose voice still haunted dreams Bella thought she had buried 5 years ago. Should have remembered that the last time she had anything to do with the Blackwood family, she had walked out of their drawing room with her heart in shards and her dignity in tatters, promised by the man she loved that she would never belong at their table, that a Chinese-American girl from Queens could never understand the weight of centuries-old bloodlines, that love was a luxury for people who could afford it, and she, quite simply, could not. But Bella signed the contract, because sometimes the universe delivers exactly the weapon you need to destroy the people who destroyed you, and because somewhere in the back of her mind, in the place where she kept the stories her grandmother whispered on her deathbed about the treasure that was taken, the legacy that was erased, the name that was scratched from history by people who wanted what wasn't theirs, a voice had been whispering for months that this moment was coming, that the necklace would come home, that Bella would be the one to bring it. 14 days. That was how long she had to examine the most famous piece of jewelry on Earth, to find what the Blackwoods had hidden for 3 generations, to prove what her grandmother had died believing but could never confirm. 14 days to transform from Isabella Chen, struggling art restorer renting a studio in Flushing that smelled like turpentine and broken dreams, into something the Blackwood family had never anticipated the rightful owner of everything they had ever built. The necklace arrived on a Thursday, delivered by armored truck with security detail that would have embarrassed the head of state, escorted into her studio by men in suits who watched her every movement with the suspicion of people guarding something they knew, on some level, didn't belong to them. Bella understood that suspicion, had seen it in the way Eleanor Blackwood's eyes tracked her during the initial consultation, the way Sebastian couldn't meet her gaze when their paths crossed during the measurement session, the way Claudia Sterling smiled at her with the superior amusement of a woman who knew she was wearing something borrowed that made her look like royalty, while the actual owner stood before them in a charcoal apron, being paid $50,000 to fix the clasp. The North Star necklace was more breathtaking in person than any photograph I had ever captured. A massive central diamond, roughly 12 carats of internally flawless brilliance, cut in the antique European style that maximized fire over precision, surrounded by a constellation of 147 smaller diamonds arranged in exact astronomical formation, representing the northern sky on the night of the winter solstice, 1923, the date of its alleged creation by the legendary Blackwood family jeweler. The setting was platinum of a purity that modern refineries rarely produced, the craftsmanship so exquisite that each diamond appeared to float in its setting, suspended by invisible prongs that seemed to defy gravity. The piece weighed 420 grams. It was insured for $80 billion, a valuation that made it worth more than the GDP of over half the countries on Earth. And according to every expert who had ever examined it, every auction house that had authenticated it, every museum that had displayed it, it had been created by Edward Blackwood III in 1923 as a wedding gift for his fiancée, and had remained the sacred crown jewel of the Blackwood dynasty for 3 generations. Except that Bella's grandmother, Mei Chun, had told a different story on her deathbed, had spoken in fragments between morphine doses about a workshop in Shanghai in 1923, about a commission from a Russian princess who disappeared in the revolution, about a masterpiece that was never delivered because men with guns came in the night and took everything, the designs, the stones, the young apprentice who had carved the hidden signature into the setting before they beat him unconscious and left him for dead in an alley, about how that apprentice was her grandfather, Wei Ming Chun, who survived somehow, fled to America, changed his name, built a small jewelry business in Flushing that failed, drank himself to death never speaking of the treasure he had created, passing only whispers to his daughter, who passed them to Bella's mother, who passed into Bella on her own deathbed 2 years ago in the same hospital where her grandmother had died. The same whispers about the necklace with the star-shaped engraving, the Chen family monogram hidden beneath the central diamond. The proof that would one day prove what everyone had forgotten, that the North Star necklace had never been a Blackwood creation at all. It took Bella 6 days to find it. 6 days of working 16-hour shifts, of examining every millimeter of the piece under magnification up to 100 times normal size, of running spectrographic analysis on metal composition, of cross-referencing historical photographs with her grandmother's sketches, of sleeping on a cot in the corner of her studio, because going home felt like wasting time she might need. 6 days of Eleanor Blackwood calling daily to demand progress updates in that voice that treated Bella like a particularly slow servant, of Claudia visiting once to offer unsolicited advice about the necklace placement on her wedding dress, while casually mentioning that Sebastian had told her all about the girl he dated briefly years ago, the artsy one from Queens, the one who hadn't been suitable, the one who apparently hadn't gotten over it, yet judging by how she had stared at him during the consultation, wasn't that awkward, of Bella smiling to the condescension while mentally cataloging every insult for the trial she was already constructing. On the 6th night, alone in her studio at 2 a.m. with rain streaking the windows and jazz playing low from the speakers she had inherited from her mother, Bella adjusted the magnifying loupe on her forehead and tilted the central diamond toward the fiber optic light at precisely 37 degrees. The angle her grandfather's notes had specified, the angle that would reveal what 3 generations of Blackwood experts had somehow missed. And there it was, invisible to naked eye, undetectable under normal examination, hidden with a subtlety that spoke of a master artisan's desperate need to claim his work microscopic Chinese characters carved into the platinum setting beneath the central diamond, characters spelling out a name in archaic script, the name Chen. The family monogram matched exactly by the star-shaped birthmark behind Bella's left ear, the signature of Wei Ming Chen, her great-grandfather, proving beyond any scientific doubt that the North Star necklace had never belonged to the Blackwoods at all. Bella sat very still for a long moment. Then she picked up her phone and called the only number she had memorized for exactly this possibility, the FBI Art Crime Division, Detective Marcus Thorne, a man she had been communicating with for 18 months about the Chen family theft claims, a man who had believed her when nobody else would, who had helped her assemble the forensic evidence package that now grew from comprehensive to conclusive with this single discovery. Detective Thorne answered on the second ring. Bella. His voice carried the particular tension of a man who had been waiting for this call. You found it. It wasn't a question. I found it, she replied, her voice sounding strange to her own ears, distant, echoey, like it belonged to someone who had just stepped through a doorway into a completely different life. The engraving matches my birthmark. My grandmother was right. My great-grandfather made this necklace. The Blackwood stole it. Everything they built for 3 generations, detective. Everything. It's ours. It's always been ours. There was silence on the line for a moment. Then Thorne said quietly, I'm going to need you to bring that necklace to the wedding, Bella. Personally. In your capacity as a restorer they hired. And when you're certain the moment is right, when everyone who matters is in one room watching, I need you to do exactly what you've been planning since you first walked into my office with your grandmother's sketches and your grandfather's notes, and your absolute conviction that the world had gotten Chen's story wrong. I need you to tell them the truth. All of it. And then I need you to watch while I arrest every single person in that room who participated in covering it up. Bella hung up the phone, looked at the necklace glittering on her workbench, the hidden name catching light now that she knew where to look, the proof that had been waiting 98 years for someone to find it. And she began to plan exactly how she would destroy a wedding. 5 years ago, Sebastian Blackwood had broken her heart in his family's drawing room while his mother watched with satisfaction from the doorway. He had told her that he cared for her, that their 3 years together had meant something, that he would always remember her, but that the Blackwood name carried responsibilities she couldn't understand, obligations that transcended personal feeling, a legacy that required certain things from its heirs, and a Chinese-American girl from Queens with no fortune, no connections, no pedigree, simply didn't qualify. He had chosen duty over love, had chosen his mother's approval over her happiness, had chosen the path of least resistance through the garden of his ancestors, while she stood in the cold, watching him disappear into a world that would never include her. Bella had walked out with her head high, had refused to cry until she reached the subway station, had built a career restoring other people's treasures while her own remained stolen, had dated occasionally but never seriously, never let anyone close enough to break what Sebastian had already shattered, had become excellent at her craft, building a reputation that eventually attracted the attention of people who could afford excellence. People like the Blackwoods, who had no idea that the restorer they were hiring to fix their stolen crown jewel was the same girl Sebastian had thrown away for not being good enough. And now she was going to walk into his wedding, not as a guest, not as an objector in the traditional sense, but as the owner of everything his family had ever possessed, carrying the proof that would dismantle his empire, expose his mother's crimes, destroy his marriage before it began, and reveal to 500 witnesses that the girl from Queens, the one who wasn't suitable, the one who hadn't been good enough for their table, had been the heiress all along. The wedding was held at Blackwood Estate, the family's Hudson Valley compound that occupied more acreage than most sovereign nations, a Georgian mansion that had been expanded continuously for 200 years until it resembled a small city more than a residence, with ballrooms and libraries and galleries and a chapel that could seat 800, currently decorated for Sterling Blackwood Union, in enough white flowers to stock every florist shop on the eastern seaboard. 500 guests filled the pews, representing approximately $4 trillion in combined net worth, wearing jewelry that Bella could identify by designer and approximate provenance from 20 paces. The accumulated wealth of people who moved through the world with the confidence of those who had never been told no. Bella entered through the service entrance at 3:47 p.m., 43 minutes before the ceremony was scheduled to begin, wearing her charcoal work dress with protective apron, carrying her toolbox in one hand and her equipment case in the other, her tablet tucked under her arm, displaying the final restoration certificate and the documentation that would soon become evidence. Security checked her credentials at the door, the same credentials Eleanor Blackwood had personally approved, the same background check that cleared her for unsupervised access to the necklace. Nobody looked at her twice. She was a help, the hired restorer. The invisible woman in the gray dress who would adjust the clasp, ensure the chain lay correctly against Claudia's throat, collect her payment check, and vanish back to Queens where she belonged. She walked through the ballroom where guests were assembling for pre-ceremony champagne, her eyes cataloging everything: the arrangement of exits, the position of security personnel, the location of the necklace currently around Claudia's neck, being admired by a cluster of Sterling relatives, the sight of Sebastian standing near the windows looking miserable in his tailcoat, the cold satisfaction on Eleanor's face as she surveyed her domain, the 500 smartphones that would soon be, recording something very different from a joyous union. And she smiled, a small, private smile that nobody noticed, because nobody was looking at the woman in the gray dress carrying tools. The wolf had entered the sheep pen, and in exactly 43 minutes, she was going to start burning it down. The ceremony began at 4:30 p.m. sharp, because Blackwood events always began sharp, with the string quartet playing Bach, with the 500 guests falling silent, with Claudia Sterling appearing at the back of the chapel in a white gown that had reportedly cost more than most people's houses, the North Star necklace blazing at her throat like she had been born to wear it, walking down the aisle on her father's arm toward Sebastian, who stood at the altar looking like a man attending his own funeral rather than his wedding. Bella stood near the front, ostensibly ready to make final adjustments to the necklace after the vows, actually positioned perfectly for what came next. She watched Claudia approach, watched Sebastian take her hand, watched the officiant begin the traditional words that would bind two families and two fortunes and two liars together in holy matrimony, and she felt the calm settle over her that always came before violence, the peculiar stillness of a predator who knows the moment has arrived. If anyone can show just cause why these two should not be joined in holy metropolis, the officiant intoned in the traditional cadence, "Let them speak now or forever hold their peace." The pause stretched. Guests glanced around. Someone coughed. The string quartet prepared to resume. "I object." Bella's voice carried across the silent chapel with the particular clarity of someone who had practiced this moment for 5 years in every shower and car ride and sleepless night since Sebastian walked out of her life. Every head turned. The quartet froze mid-note. Claudia's smile faltered. Sebastian's face went the color of old paper. and Eleanor Blackwood, seated in the front row, her eyes locking onto Bella with the recognition of a predator who suddenly realized a sheep had teeth. Bella walked down the aisle toward the altar, not quickly, not slowly, deliberately, the way she had walked toward her workbench every morning for 5 years, building the skills that would lead to this moment. The way her great-grandfather must have walked toward his workbench in Shanghai in 1923, carving his signature into the setting of a necklace he knew was being stolen, leaving proof that someday someone would find it. She stopped at the altar, turned to face the assembled guests, 500 of the wealthiest people in the Western Hemisphere, all staring at the woman in the gray dress who had just interrupted the wedding of the year with 2 words. "My name is Isabella Chen," she said, her voice carrying clearly without amplification. "I am the great-granddaughter of Wei Ming Chen, master jeweler who created the necklace that this bride is wearing. I am the sole surviving descendant of the Qin Imperial Jewelry House of Shanghai. I am the rightful owner of the North Star necklace, valued at $80 billion, which the Blackwood family stole from my family in 1923 and has displayed as their own creation for 3 generations. I am here to prove it. I am here to take back what was stolen, and I am here to ensure that everyone who participated in this theft, everyone who covered it up, everyone who built their legacy on my family's destruction, faces the consequences." She reached into her equipment case and withdrew the tablet, activating the projection system she had arranged with Detective Thorne, who was even now entering through the main doors with his FBI team and the arrest warrants that had been prepared the moment her call came through 6 nights ago. The screen behind her lit up with images her great-grandfather's original design sketches, the spectrographic analysis proving the metal composition matched in family techniques unknown to Blackwood artisans, the hidden engraving photograph magnified 10,000 times showing the Qin family monogram, the police report from 1923 detailing a robbery that everyone had assumed killed Wei Ming Chen, the genealogical records proving direct descent, the current market valuation of $80 billion. And this, Bella continued, reaching toward Claudia's throat, is my family's necklace. Return it, Claudia screamed. Actually screamed, a sound that echoed through the chapel like the death throes of something that had never been alive. She clawed at her throat as Bella's fingers touched the clasp, not hurting her, merely releasing the mechanism, and the necklace slid free, $80 billion of stolen heritage settling into Bella's palm like it had been waiting 98 years for this exact moment. Sebastian made a sound like someone punched him in the stomach. His knees buckled. He didn't fall, not quite, but his hands gripped the altar edge hard enough to whiten his knuckles, and his face, when Bella glanced at it, showed the precise expression of a man watching his entire worldview collapse in real-time disbelief, then denial, then horrible dawning comprehension, then the rawest grief she had ever seen on a human face, the grief of someone realizing that the woman he had thrown away for not being good enough had been the best thing he had ever touched, and he had traded her for a lie. Eleanor Blackwood rose from her seat with a speed that belied her 62 years, her face contorted with fury. "This is absurd," she spat, her voice carrying contempt of 3 generations of privilege. "This is some kind of extortion attempt. Security, remove this woman immediately. Mrs. Blackwood." Detective Marcus Thorne's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. He stood at the chapel entrance with 12 FBI agents in tactical gear, warrants displayed. "Eleanor Blackwood, you are under arrest for receipt of stolen property valued over $80 billion, conspiracy to commit fraud across international borders, obstruction of justice spanning 3 generations, and accessory after the fact to the 1923 robbery of the Qin Imperial Jewelry House. You have the right to remain silent." Eleanor's face did something Bella had never expected to see. It crumbled. 62 years of ice and control and absolute certainty that she was untouchable, that the family's secret was safe, that the girl from Queens would never find the proof, that the necklace would stay Blackwood forever, all of it collapsing in a single moment as the handcuffs clicked shut around wrists that had never experienced restraint. She didn't scream like Claudia. She didn't weep like Sebastian. She simply diminished, became smaller somehow, older, a frightened old woman in handcuffs instead of matriarch, facing prison for crimes she had spent a lifetime pretending didn't exist. Claudia was next, dragged away still screaming about her wedding. her something borrowed turning out to be evidence of her fiancé's family's crimes, her face ruining under the combination of mascara tears and the realization that her marriage was illegal before it began, her social media accounts being seized as evidence of her knowledge of the theft because of course she had known, of course they had all known. The whole family had built their identity around a lie and convinced themselves it was truth. Thomas Sterling, Claudia's father, confessed immediately, weeping about business deals and alliances and how he had known about the necklace origin for years, and had said nothing because the Blackwood connection was worth too much to risk. His new money aspirations laid bare in pathetic detail as agents led him away. And then there was Sebastian. He had sunk to his knees sometime during his mother's arrest, his pristine tailcoat touching the marble floor of the chapel where he had been about to vow before God and 500 witnesses to love, honor, and cherish a woman he didn't love, to build a life on a foundation of theft he had always suspected but refused to examine too closely. When Bella finally turned to face him, he looked up at her with the expression of a man who had just realized he had destroyed the only good thing he had ever touched. Bella, his voice cracked on her name, ruined by tears, 5 years of composure dissolving in seconds. Bella, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know about the necklace, about your family, about any of this. But I knew about us. I knew I loved you. I knew I was choosing wrong when I let you walk out that door. I have been empty every single day since. I married Claudia for the alliance, for the money, for mother's approval, and I told myself it was a responsible thing to do. But it was just cowardice, pure cowardice. And I am so sorry. I am so desperately sorry. Please, whatever you want from me, money, the house, my shares, my name, take it all. Just please, don't leave me here like this. Don't let this be how it ends. Bella looked down at him for a long moment. Her expression was unreadable, neither soft nor cruel, just evaluating, calculating, the way she evaluated a damaged gemstone, determining whether it could be salvaged or should be discarded. Sebastian, she said finally, her voice carrying the weight of a verdict. 5 years ago, you told me I wasn't good enough, that I didn't belong, that your family's legacy was more important than my feelings. You chose them over me. You chose a lie over the truth. You chose cowardice over love. And now I discover that your family's legacy was built on MY family's destruction, that the necklace Claudia was wearing today belongs to me, that everything you thought made you superior, everything that justified throwing me away, was stolen from people like me, from MY people. And you wanted to forgive you? You wanted to take you back? To give you another chance? She paused, let the silence stretch. No, she said quietly. You had your chance. You made your choice. And now you get to live with it. The divorce papers will be metaphorical since we were never married, but consider this our separation. You keep nothing except the clothes on your back. The Blackwood estate is being seized as proceeds of criminal activity. Your shares in the family company are worthless since the company itself is being dissolved. Your mother is going to prison. Your fiancé is going to prison. Your father-in-law is going to prison. And you, Sebastian, you're free. Free to rebuild. Free to become the man you should have been 5 years ago if you'd had the courage. Free to live with the knowledge that you threw away $80 billion and the only woman who ever really loved you because you were too afraid to choose differently. She turned away from him without a backward glance. The North Star necklace blazed at her throat, catching the light from the chandeliers, throwing prisms across the chapel walls like a galaxy contained in platinum and diamond. She walked toward the main entrance, past the FBI agents processing her enemies, past the guests who had stopped recording long enough to stare with something approaching awe, past the wreckage of a wedding that had become a crime scene, toward the doors that open onto the Hudson Valley afternoon, golden hour sunlight streaming through like benediction. Miss Chen? Detective Thorne fell into step beside her, his voice carrying professional respect and something warmer beneath. The paperwork is already filed. The Chen Family Trust is being reactivated. Every asset the Blackwoods acquired using that necklace as collateral, which is essentially all of it, reverts to your ownership effective immediately. You are now officially one of the wealthiest people on planet Earth. Bella touched the necklace at her throat, feeling the weight of 98 years of waiting, of her grandmother's deathbed whispers, of her grandfather's hidden signature, of her own 5 years of rebuilding after Sebastian broke her heart. The diamonds were warm against her skin, alive in a way that jewelry never was for its thieves, resonating with the energy of creation rather than theft, of homecoming rather than conquest. "The necklace is coming home," she said quietly, more to herself than the thorn. "That's all I ever wanted." She walked out of Blackwood Estate into golden afternoon light, carrying her family's legacy home at last, leaving behind her the ruins of the people who had stolen it, the man who had chosen cowardice over love, the wedding that had become a funeral for a dynasty built on lies. Behind her, she could hear the chaos continuing, the arrest completing, the guests dispersing in shock, Sebastian's sobs echoing through the empty chapel like the ghost of the choice he had made 5 years ago finally coming to claim its due. But Bella didn't look back. The crystal had spoken, the protocol was complete, and the necklace, at last, was home.